Okay, welcome to the Tuesday, April 7th meeting of the Board of Directors. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Reverend Manley Beasley, to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand with me?
Let's pray. Father, we just thank you this evening for the willingness of these to come and to serve. Lord, I ask a blessing on each of them for that. Lord, we ask for wisdom. The challenges that we all face in making decisions in our lives and then those on behalf of others is always difficult. So we pray for wisdom. And then, Lord, I ask for the will as they arrive at a consensus on these issues, the will to move forward and to give us leadership and direction. And we are indeed blessed. In Christ's name we thank you. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hereby call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Williams. Here. Ramick.
Here.
Foley. Carney.
Here. Thank you. Okay, the first item of business is to consider the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda, including items, if any, to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move for approval of the agenda.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Okay, the motion is adopted. The second item of business is the approval of the minutes of the board meetings, the regular meeting held on March 16th and the special meeting held on March 23rd. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions, or modifications to the minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
May I so move?
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion is adopted. In an effort to afford our citizens and guests an equal and orderly opportunity to address tonight's agenda, I want to remind our citizens and our guests that we adhere to a 3-minute limit on your comments, and for your convenience, we will display a timer clock on the monitors. And out of respect for all of us, we ask that you honor this request. While members of the board may have questions of the speakers, I ask that any general comments be reserved for the board discussion after the speakers have all been heard. We also ask that all cell phones be silenced, and please refrain from any disruptions of the meeting. Should you need to leave prior to the closing of our meeting, we ask that you please do so quietly. And thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you coming out on a beautiful night that you could have stayed home and watched. The ball game's over, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. You could have stayed home and rested. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. And at this time, we have some guests to be recognized. We'll start with our, it's not listed on here. Yeah, it is, Proclamation of National Service Recognition Day. And that's the one I don't have the main proclamation for, but I would like to call Dorothy Brennan up and let you explain to us what y'all do. I will read the proclamation, but we will get the frameable one to them immediately. Come over by the microphone and tell us who you are and who you have with you tonight.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be here. My name is Dorothy Brennan. I guess you
Yeah.
And I am the Assistant Director of the Senior Companion Program. And this is operated through the Area Agency on Aging. And basically our mission is to allow our senior citizens to remain in their own homes as long as they can, with their dignity intact. And there is no charge for our service, and hardly anything you can say that about anymore these days. So it's a very wonderful program, and that is our mission, and we're very proud of it. With me tonight is Barbara. Let me introduce you. This is Barbara Gross, one of our senior companions. And secondly is Janice Peterson. She is also one of our senior companions. And then Joyce, if you will stand. Joyce Chambers is one of our coordinators, volunteer coordinators. She is a very busy lady because she also has a client load as well as does all the stuff in the office. And Billy, this is Billy Holstenbach. Some of you may know her. She's our marketing director. Hi, Billy. And so this program, we just received the grant in July of last year. Oh, now, okay. So now we have it in Garland County. We also operate in the south. We have Mount Ida, Malvern, and Arkadelphia. So we cover a lot of territory. Plus, we have a program in the north. So we appreciate the mayor signing our proclamation. It's National Recognition Day of all the senior services. And we have a lot of, not just senior companions, foster grandparents, a lot of programs that, the world runs on volunteerism. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to read this proclamation, and then we promise to get your frameable one to you very soon. Today, we were very fortunate in the early afternoon to have the foster grandparents here who go into the daycare centers and also to First Head Start, and they go to the schools. And they have, some of the ladies have been doing it for years and years. I think one lady had been doing it for like 20 years. So we were very privileged to have them here this afternoon for cookies and tea. And I'm going to read the proclamation now. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's mayors are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet city needs, and whereas participants address the most pressing challenges facing our cities and nations, from educating students for jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families to providing health services and helping communities recover from natural disasters. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. And whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, to commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with mayors nationwide to encourage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, City of Service, and mayors across the country to recognize the impact of service on the Mayor's Day of Recognition for National Service on April the 1st, 2015. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of Hot Springs, do hereby proclaim April 1, 2015 as National Service Recognition Day in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and encourage residents to recognize and positive impact of national service in our city and thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to their communities. In witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed on this 16th day of March, which is when we made the proclamation, in the year of our Lord, 2015. And this is for the Senior Companion Program at the Area Agency on the Aging. And we thank you so much, and we're going to have a picture, even though we don't have... Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll use the next proclamation.
Just don't zoom in
I
there.
won't zoom in.
Billy, you'll get the picture and I'll take that.
Okay, our next guest is the proclamation for the Fair Housing Month. Who do we have here to receive that?
Yeah, Richard and Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, would y'all come on up and tell us a little bit about what you do, and then I will read the proclamation. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. My name is Richard Harrington, Jr. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of the City of Hot Springs. This is my good friend, Nicole Good, who's the director of Habitat for Humanity here in Hot Springs and in Garland County. April has been traditionally named Fair Housing Month throughout the country, and which means that we take time to show that we do not discriminate based upon race, age, sex, familial status, natural origin, or sexual orientation. So that's the federal law. So we don't have it's not a lot of room that we have to deal with. So particularly when you're dealing with programs involving the federal government, I came to Habitat to ask about this special recognition, and it's a long time coming. Nicole has taken such good time to work with us in some of our other programs with Habitat that to help some of our residents move into private housing, not subsidized by the government. And so it's really a great honor and a great chance to partner between the two of us. So I'm trying to get
Nicole, tell us what all is going on with Habitat.
Well, Habitat is busy this year. We're celebrating 20 years here in Hot Springs, so we're really excited about that. We're excited that April is Fair Housing Month. You guys will probably see something will come out in the newspaper. Last year, this time, we dedicated 2 homes from lifelong neighbors that came from the Housing Authority. They are now neighbors in Habitat homes side by side, so that's a great partnership that we have with the Housing Authority and then also with some of the homeowners that are going in. And we just have a lot going on. We had a groundbreaking on our Apostle Build this morning. We had a big Arkansas Gives last week. We were able to raise almost enough money to fund a home in 2 days through 2 fundraising events. So we look to have a really exciting 2015, and we appreciate all the city's support and everything they do, and including our community. Our community is fantastic, and we couldn't do it without their support.
Thank you so much. Now I will read the proclamation. Stay right there so we can get a picture. Okay. Whereas in the United States, 48.5 million people are living in poverty, and whereas Garland County Habitat for Humanity and the Hot Springs Housing Authority's vision is a world where everyone has a decent place to live, and whereas on April 11th, 1968, Congress enacted the Federal Fair Housing Act, and whereas President Johnson viewed the act as a fitting memorial to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life work associated with the fair housing legislation. Now, therefore, I, Ruth Carney, Mayor of the City of Hot Springs, on behalf of the Board of Directors, do hereby proclaim April 2015 as Fair Housing Month in Hot Springs, Arkansas, in witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be affixed on this 7th day of April in the year of our Lord 2015. Ruth Carney, Mayor. Okay. And our next proclamation is for the Community Gardens Network annual. Nope, that was Fair Housing. I have 2 of these for you. Don't go away without yours. Okay. I don't think we have a proclamation. We have a Community Garden Network annual report on this one. And Mr. Reagan, are you going to present that one?
Hey, Bill.
Oh, thanks, David. Thanks, Cousin David.
Green. Well, while they're getting that loaded up, hi, I'm Jody Sprague. I'm the president of the Hot Springs Area Community Garden Network, and this is Dave Reagan. Most of you probably know him. He's the vice president. We're just doing a short presentation. You have, if you want more details, the annual report is available to you through Jean or in the city offices. So we're going to run through our slideshow. But first off, the two of the main things that we accomplished this last year have been to establish the Park Haven Community Garden, which is the second garden in the network now. And we've taken over the 501c3 status of the Beautification Commission, which opens up the fundraising possibilities a lot for the network. Okay, so it's up there now. So we have two gardens. We're going into the 7th year, I believe, for Palm Beach Gardens, and that's the main one that I've been involved with since the beginning. So I'm going to run through the first set of slides and then let Dave explain more about the new garden. But most of you, I hope, know where it is, just a couple blocks over. It serves a lot of the people that live in this neighborhood. We keep the fees, have been able to keep the fees quite low, $10 to join and $5 per bed, so that we've had a lot of people from the high rise and other places in this area. So it's really serving a lot of people, and every year we get better and learn things every day, like everyone does in their gardens. So mostly we've got pictures here now, bee, butterfly, and bird sanctuaries. Just yesterday I saw bluebirds over at this garden, which I never have in my my yard. And you might be able to see that what was that called? I forget what that was. Hyssop just was covered with bumblebees that day in the summer.
We're trying our best to become certified as a bee and butterfly sanctuary, so we have to plant a certain amount of vegetation that attracts them.
Cool. And here's just some of our pictures. We have a lot of events, potlucks, just get-togethers, try to learn from each other, involve the children. We had a rock painting station. They enjoyed that a lot. We always get a Girl Scout troop that takes a bed and plants whatever they want in it. And this was one of our potluck picnics at the top. Okay. And then the Helpful City Cruise, and we just really want to thank the city for all the participation. We couldn't do it without you, you know, the compost, the water, Jean's cruise, the tree people. There's two guys that brought compost, a large load there, and then Denny sent Fred's crew over and cut a couple of hackberries for us and did some trimming and threw it right into the mulcher. So we have a pile of mulch from that ready for our next project. Here's a couple of pictures of spring planting, which is where we are again. Okay, that's good. Summertime, looking good. We had huge squash and lots of lettuce, all kinds of stuff.
How many pounds of produce did we feel we?
Lots.
Yeah. Okay. There was a number there.
There is a number in the report, yeah.
You can read the report.
Okay, and then as far as harvesting, can you go back one? We always get a few interesting crops every year. This gardener did peanuts. And there he is harvesting them, and then at the lower part, he's holding up one of his roots full of peanuts. I'd never seen such a thing, so that was interesting to me. His other crop is always butter beans, which I had never heard of either. And then, you know, peppers, and then the tomatoes. Everybody goes for the tomatoes. And then in winter, when so many things are, you know, just laying empty, we do try to grow what we can, collards and all the greens, and also take the opportunity we're putting in cement block beds when the wood can't be fixed on some of them. We got a donation from Master Gardeners of all these perennial walking onions, and the bed on the left is when I put them into one of these empty beds, and then I just took this picture a couple days ago of what they look like. So not everything succumbs to winter. They were covered with snow, but look at them now. Okay.
Okay, this
All right.
is a montage, if you will, of Park Haven's community effort. Park Haven began as a project of Park Avenue Community Association, trying to develop the community a little bit, trying to create some excitement and some beauty in the uptown area. The partnerships that we forged with Haven United Methodist Church, Kevin Coakley, the Math and Science School, Hot Springs School District, Job Corps, National Park Community College, and others too numerous to mention have brought us to where we are today. I'd also like to put in a plug for City Plumbing. They gave us our water pipe for free and installed it. In the pink there, you'll see the lot that Mr. Coakley leased to the city to complete the garden, a nice large piece of property that we're using for staging area, and probably will have a greenhouse on it in the future. Two panoramas, an early shot of the garden with the pergola and the raised bed garden. By the way, we are ADA compliant at Park Haven, and plans are to complete the right on Park Avenue and put a solar irrigation system in that's powered by the sun. We want to thank you all for your great support, and best of luck in the 2015 growing season.
Thank you. Thanks so much. We appreciate that. Great. I was just wondering if it's close enough to that to get tomatoes. No, you don't live close. I thought you did. Okay, we appreciate that and what it's done for our community, and we hope to see more gardens all over in different areas. I think people have caught on to the trend, and it's a good idea.
We'll be glad to help.
Great. Okay, we will now hear our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a downtown merchants meeting this morning. Went very well. A couple of things were mentioned that I thought I would bring up tonight. The first involves a public forum that I really encourage everyone to try to make if you have an interest in downtown, which I know most people in town do. The consulting firm of Thomas P. Miller and Associates, which has been hired by the West Central Planning and Development District, will be holding an interactive forum at the Arlington Hotel on Thursday, April 9th at 6 p.m. in room C. And the purpose of that hearing or forum is it's the beginning of a 4-month planning process, which is being funded mostly by an Economic Development Administration grant, purpose being to develop an economic development strategy for downtown. The City of Hot Springs, Metro Partnership are also participating in the event and the funding. The hope for the mission of this is to have a community-based, ground-up plan or a strategy that involves property owners, merchants, bankers, residents, people who have a passion for downtown, the arts community, potential investors. So if anybody ever wants an opportunity to have input in helping to develop a strategy for downtown, which is really larger than what we think of as Central Avenue, but it really includes adjoining neighborhoods of Gateway, Whittington Park, and even over into the Quapaw Prospect area. This is the time to do it. And this is the first step of a multi-year process. We will have the framework at the end of 4 months in July or later on in the summer that will be the foundation for seeking additional EDA infrastructure grants. Private foundations will be very helpful when private property owners are seeking loan approval from local banks. There will be a plan that has community buy-in, so I really want to encourage people to come to that meeting. Another exciting event that was mentioned that I'll ask Director Davidson, who was at the meeting, to elaborate on is the upcoming Arts in the Park. This is a collaborative effort being managed by the Hot Springs Cultural Arts Alliance to stage a 9-day arts festival in downtown Hot Springs, beginning on May 1, ending on May 9th. There will be all kinds of different art activities involving the visual and the performing arts. There will be a famous speed painter who is being brought in by A&P on Saturday, May 9th. We're going to have an art fest on Saturday, May 9th. We're going to have art studio tours, and I'll let Suzanne talk about that. But I want everybody in the community to mark this on your calendar, because there is a real effort here by the arts community to take our downtown and help it realize the vision that Benini and others had 10, 15 years ago, to kind of bring it back to being a centerpiece of downtown culture and redevelopment. So, Mayor, that's my report.
Great. Okay. And I'd like to remind you that April is a national mayor's water conservation and upcoming. It started already. So I hate to ask every one of you if you've gone to mywaterpledge.com. Okay? All of you have to do this. This is a requirement. Can I require that for you? mywaterpledge.com, and it's to pledge that you will start conserving water. And we want to note that the city and the county are both working together on this. There are ads on the news outlets and in radio. We don't have television yet, but David Watkins and Rick Davis went together and made a cute little commercial. I think it's really cute. Have any of you heard that on the radio yet? You got to listen to it. There's 2 stations that have the ads for water conservation, and it's the least expensive option for water supply concerns. So we're all saving. When you go on that mywaterpledge.com, it will, after you take, it's a 5-step pledge, and after you take it, it will show you how much water you personally will save. It's amazing. That's just like turning off your water while you're brushing your teeth. Simple little things. It's about washing your car and you're watering your yard. There are different things in there that you make a pledge, I will, and it's real simple, real easy, and then you saved thousands of gallons of water just yourself. So when we all start doing that, that's a very economical way to purchase water, isn't it? We've got all that free water that now you can build a pool or something because we've got all of this water. So help us with that conservation effort. Note that every dollar saved through conservation is available to spend in the community, helping stimulate the local economy. So it's mywaterpledge.com. Please go to the website, sign up, and start saving and conserving water. It's not just water, it's about garbage, and it's the ecology that we need to really pick up and start making our city a most beautiful place to live on earth. And I think I saw Suzanne Davidson picking up a can on the street today. Did I see that? I did. And so if all of us would just start doing that when you see it, it's your responsibility. Let's make our place a better place to live. Okay, and do we have announcements of upcoming events?
Okay, I'll go.
Yes, Suzanne, you go finish what he was telling us about.
I just got an email just a little while ago. It says to announce this is the board meeting tonight. Summerfest Uptown Treasure Hunt, and I think the dates may be wrong. It says receive your treasure map April 9th, Saturday, but April is Saturday is the 11th. So I don't know whether that's April or May. They've already gone. At the Hot Springy Dinghy at 409 Park Avenue, and it's about the history of Park Avenue neighborhood, and they have clues planted in different social media, the Springs Magazine, Hot Springs Magazine, and Summerfest Uptown on Facebook for hints, and there's prizes if you can find the treasure hunt. There's one group on Facebook that has already challenged everybody in the community to face off because they won last year. I think Michelle Sestilli is part of that group. On the Arts in the Park, this was it was born from Dorothy Morris and Don Monroe approaching the A&P about pulling all the arts organizations together to do something. And so it was a committee of about 20 for a year And then it turned into a board about 6 months ago. So we've been working on this about a year now in the planning of it. And now we're down to a meeting a week, and we're threatening each other if we don't have these meetings last more than an hour or two. Today it was 3. The first weekend, May 1st and 2nd. May 1st is Friday, and that's Gallery Walk, as usual. But there's going to be expanded events with the Gallery Walk at Emergent Arts, at Dryden Pottery, and all up and down Central Avenue. And then Saturday and Sunday is the studio tour. At the Five-Star Dinner Theater is going to be a production of the Hot Springs Children's Dance Theater and their production of Cinderella. And I believe that's going to be all that weekend, so you can get your tickets there. Monday is a culinary event called Food Fight. And it's going to be at the Hamp Williams building behind the Culinary District. And 2 teams, each has 3 chefs, and they're going to compete. And you vote with your plate if you go. Right now, the tickets are $25. There's going to be 75 tickets. The week of the event, they go up to 35. We think that one will sell out. We're already hearing a lot of buzz about it. On Tuesday the 5th, there's going to be an authors groups in the morning and in the afternoon at the Fine Arts Center. I had no idea. I bet we've got 20 or 30 local authors, including Mr. Lewin. I don't know if he's involved in this, but we've got a lot of authors involved, ones that teach at the library, and they have all kinds of groups going. Meetings and have books for sale. That evening is going to be, we learned that we realized May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. But Cinco de Mayo is limited to Mexico, and we have so many more groups and more nationalities recognized here or represented in Hot Springs. So it's going to be called a Hispanic Heritage Event, and we have an Azteco Folklorico group dancing. But this is not a professional group. These are people that know each other and have been dancing together for years. So there's some guys coming from Greenwood, some coming from DeQueen, some coming from different places. And their fee is $50 a truck to buy their gas money to get them here. Yeah, and then we had to provide a place for them to change. On Wednesday, I'll be demoing down at Hot Springs Fine Arts Center, and hopefully I can finish that pet portrait I'm supposed to get done. And then that evening in Superior Bathhouse, and it'll be a live production that's going to be taped for later broadcast on KUAR, and that's Tales of the South. So that should be a fun event. On the 7th, Champion Trees presentation at the Ozark Bathhouse. The film will be shown, and Linda Williams Palmer, her tree show has been up, and it's going to be up for a considerable time this year. And that's also the evening of the producers' party. It's a big reception. And then later that night is blues at the Ohio Club, and that's sponsored partly. A lot of these groups are sponsored by different arts groups, and that's by our blues organization. On the 8th, I'm going to participate with other artists in one workshop, and we have this artist coming, and I'm real anxious to see this, and he is blind, and he does portraits, and his name is James Bramblett, but he's going to spend, I believe, Thursday at First Step, working with participants there. He's going to do a workshop with children and then a workshop with adults, and supposedly we'll be blindfolded. I'll give a report. Then, let's see, I don't know what that is. Outdoor film, that's been changed. That's Friday night. We think, tentatively, it's going to be an outdoor film on a large blow-up outdoor screen. And tentatively, it's going to be at the Transportation Depot, but more in the, I'm trying to say, farmer's market area. Yeah. Too much ambient light. We wanted to have it at the Baxter Plaza area, but that ground is not, it's not ready, so we couldn't have it there. Mm-hmm. And then on the 9th, that is Saturday, there's Art Fest going on all day long. Downtown, I think the deadline's closed. We have, I think, 20 tents will be up of artists, local artists, selling their wares. The Hot Springs Village Band will perform on the Arlington lawn. And there's going to be this speed painter named Dan Dunn. And he he spins the canvas. You've seen it on TV or maybe YouTube where he just throws paint up there and, you don't know what it is. And then all of a sudden it's Ray Charles or somebody. So that will be over here at the convention center. And then there will be performances on a stage all day long, every 30 minutes at Art Fest in Hill Wheatley Plaza. And then there will be, I think they're calling it Arts After Dark after that event. So it's a full week.
Thank you.
Hope you can
Director
join
Williams,
us.
I think, what was it? I remember I saw a hand on that side.
Okay. Starting tomorrow, the City of Hot Springs and District 5 will welcome people from all over the nation, tens of thousands of people, for the Racing Festival of the South that will culminate Saturday with the running the Arkansas Derby, which will qualify someone for the Kentucky Derby. So that means this weekend there'll be a lot of traffic. There'll be a lot of people spending a lot of money. The hotels will be full and the restaurants will be full. And we'd like to welcome them all and thank them.
Yes, Director Williams.
Director Ramick just stole my thunder.
Uh-oh.
But I'll just go ahead and add one. Yes. Well, I'll just add one other thing, and this is not in my district, but Magic Springs will also be opening Saturday. So,
Are you going?
I'm going to the Arkansas Derby.
I thought maybe you were going to Magic Springs. Was there another one?
And I have a box that has a very good view, and so those I could probably sell those seats for a lot of money if I wanted to, but I'm not going to.
Okay, and we have 27 openings on boards, committees, and commissions. And if you'll go to cityhs.net and look at that and maybe sign up to help volunteer on some of these commissions and committees that are open, we really need your help on a lot of different areas. So go and check that one out. And also, was there another announcement over here? Our next item is the consent agenda, and on that agenda we have Karen Garcia. And I just want to thank her before we even vote her in that we are so excited that you've decided to volunteer on one of our boards and commissions, and the Airport Commission is open, and we hope that that is something that you'll enjoy doing. And we are missing you around here, but we're glad that you're retired and having fun, and we want to thank you for signing up for that board. I've got a funny feeling we're going to vote you in. Okay. Any other announcements? Thank you for being here. The next item of business is the consideration of the consent agenda. Items in this section are of a routine nature and will be considered as one item of business without discussion. I will now entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda, to adopt it. Is there a second?
Second.
And would you please call the roll?
Yes. Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Ramick.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is
Great.
adopted. And thank you so much again, Karen, for participating. The next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01511. First, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title only. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Council, would you please read by title?
Ordinance 01511, an ordinance adopting public health and property regulations, repealing certain ordinances and resolutions, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. You now entertain a motion to second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved, Mayor.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, and Ms. Selman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Board. Kathy
evening.
Selman, Planning and Development Director. And we're here tonight. This is the 6th meeting of the year, and this is the 4th meeting that this item has appeared on your agenda. I know there's a lot of concern about when something comes up like this, that people have had an opportunity to know what's going on. So I mentioned the 4 agenda appearances, and each time we've talked about what is in the proposal to make some changes to Title 17, our public health requirements. In addition to being on the agenda, there have been stories in the Sentinel Record, and I think all of them have been on the front page on February 16th, March 15th, March 18th, and April 6th, again, going into detail about those things that are contained in this proposal. The Title 17 section in the Hot Springs Code starts off by saying, the purpose and intent of this code is to ensure the public health, safety, and welfare insofar as they are affected by the conditions and maintenance of existing residential structures, dwelling units, rooming units, premises, and to ensure consistent community standards are applied to all residential property. The city's ability to regulate these things comes from the state of Arkansas in their statutes 1454, 901, and those sections that follow. And that section is called Regulation of Unsanitary Conditions. That's what Title 17 is about. When these things in Title 17 are observed and properties comply, yeah, the city looks better. But the most important thing is that the city is healthier. And conditions such as even the smallest little place, little something stored outside that can hold water quickly becomes a perfect habitat for mosquitoes. And they are vectors of disease and pain in the neck. So that's what these requirements are about. The changes that are contained in the ordinance are that undeveloped platted lots must cut weeds back 10 feet from the road, that only outside items will be stored outside, motor vehicles will be parked on approved surfaces only, licensed cars and trucks. If you have a car and a truck or a truck in a residential neighborhood, you have to license it. They can't be stored if they are not licensed. Adjacent owners are responsible for mowing between the property line and the road. Weeds need to be cut before they grow to 6 inches. Graffiti needs to be cleaned up faster. Right now, we give people a week. The proposal is 3 days. That hazardous housing conditions that threaten life safety, need to be corrected faster than the 7 days in the existing code, and that people correcting code violations on their home or other structures need to obtain the same permits for correcting violations that people get when they are building something or adding on to something. In Hot Springs 2030, which is the update to the comprehensive plan that was done several years ago, citizens in that production were very, very blunt about conditions in Hot Springs. And the quote from that plan is, while the greater Hot Springs area remains an attractive destination for incoming residents, many of whom are retirees, the community's inner neighborhoods are languishing. And they further noted in the plan, without significant and urgent reinvestment, Hot Springs Historic Center and its inner neighborhoods will continue to deteriorate, and that slide is increasingly difficult to correct. So the findings with regard to this request are that the City of Hot Springs adopted comprehensive plans in 1997 and 2011, both of which identify neighborhood maintenance and improvement as key goals. Hot Springs Code Title 17 is the regulatory means for encouraging property upkeep and health and safety. The ordinance clarifies and restates minimum property maintenance standards consistent with the goal to maintain public health, safety, and welfare while enhancing our city's neighborhoods. That concludes the presentation.
Okay. And we have one person signed up, so don't go too far away. We may have questions. George Bridget.
George Bridget, 125 Carl Drive. I appreciate what Ms. Salzman done, and much of it in this code I agree with, but I do want to point out some issues that we need to consider. And I do wish there would have been a public meeting held so people could come forward and speak about this. These codes are more restrictive on many people that already have hardships. Many of these communities, and I'm not picking on the Catholics in the community, but if you go behind all the Catholic churches, you're going to find a lot of homes that are in some state of need of repair that people own, and they simply aren't repairing them because they don't have the money, the resources. It's a choice between medicine and food. Another problem, some of these limitations shortening the time, and I will say this, code works well with people. I'm not critical there. But some of those you can't do. I own a number of properties in town. I have a lot of trouble getting people out in the time limit that you're proposing of 3 days on some of these. I do isolate the safety hazards and take the equipment out of service, but I often have trouble getting parts and labor. There's some big burdens in here on people. I think the one's comical on the fecal matter on dogs. Seattle's now testing the DNA on dogs to find people. I hope we don't go to that. But one that really does concern me on page 68, dwelling unit, we're changing this to a month. You have a lot of people for the Racing Festival of the South in town this weekend that are staying in condos in the city limits and around the lake. They're renting them by the week, by the night, by the weekend. You know, are we going to shut all that off? Because those people aren't going to go to hotels in many cases. They're going to use condos. That's what people go to the coast of Florida for. They want to live in houses and condos for their vacation. I projected there's more than 200 that I could find. You also have some things here on rooming unit. I understand that. A lot of people pay by the week, people, because they don't have enough money. I don't think you all understand the poor in our community. I'm not concerned about the weeds. You can do whatever you want. You don't enforce it anyway. I drove down a lot of major streets today, and I could have written 500 violations. Parking surfaces, where do you want people to park their cars? If you park on both sides of a lot of streets in this town, you're creating safety hazards. Lastly, I'll just talk about egress. You have a sitting in there that says you have to have 2 means of egress. I can tell you condos, apartments, all over this city that do not have 2 means of egress were built to the code, and we're now saying you have to have 2 doors. I own several of them myself. We need to take a look at least at that, because you would be changing the entire structure of the buildings. And a second floor unit that has 1 means of egress out the front and a deck in the back that's more than 10 feet off the floor is a hazard for someone to jump. I could go on. We have to be concerned about the poor in our community that can't do this. We are not a major metropolitan city with wide streets that gives us the opportunity to do all of these things. Thank you again, Ms. Selman, for what you've done. But folks, you need to look at some of these things because it's difficult for the city.
Thank you, George. We don't have anyone else signed up, but Kathy, you want to come back? And the one he just mentioned about a dwelling unit, what does that mean? I noticed that, but I wasn't real sure. We took out day, week, and put month. What does that really mean?
Well, that simply makes this consistent with the fire prevention code.
So that means a place that's rented,
the more restrictive requirement applies anyway.
Mm-hmm.
This just makes it apparent that that is the more restrictive requirement. It is not a change.
So people can still rent for a week.
I'm not telling you that they can rent or not. The city doesn't regulate that. I'm just saying that the dwelling unit definition in the fire prevention code is more strict than what this code says. And regardless of what this code says, if you have a stricter requirement, that is the requirement that must be followed.
Okay, so it really doesn't matter if someone's living there for a month if they pay every 2 weeks. That's not what you're talking about?
The city doesn't regulate that.
Yeah, okay. So this is going for how many square feet? And we already have that per person, and 70 square feet for each additional person. So that was already there, just changing for the more strict requirement for anybody to be in that place. Is that what we're doing? I just want to be sure.
Which section are you looking at, Mayor?
It's dwelling unit, a single unit providing complete independent living facilities.
In the definition?
Mm-hmm. We changed it.
Page 68.
A unit designed for long-term stay and may be let for occupancy by and we took out day, week, or month.
Can you give me a section number? I'm sorry.
Section
1724.
Okay.
I just didn't know what the extent that meant.
The only change there is to take out day, week, or. There's no change in the size. There's no other change there.
Okay, and it really doesn't have anything to do with how a person pays their rent, because we don't control that. So does that?
We don't regulate what has come to be known as vacation rentals. We get a lot of complaints about them, but the city has not made it a priority to regulate those in any form or fashion.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I just want to make perfectly clear, because the business I'm in, Mr. Pritchard was right. A lot of people come here to stay for a week and don't want to stay in a hotel. And there are people around town that do rent by the day or week in a condominium, whether they're in the city or in the county along the lake. I want to make sure that we're not going to limit the length of time someone can rent a piece of property.
We have no intention of doing that. There's nothing in this code or Title 16 either, for that matter, that regulates or attempts to regulate the short-term rental of residential properties.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Under weeds, we lowered it from the height from 10 to 6 inches for developed property. What led us to make that change?
The reason that we made that change is because we are unable to write a notice for a weed violation until something gets to 10 inches. Once it gets to 10 inches, it goes to seed, it goes nuts, and we at that point are giving people 7 to 10 days to cut that weed down. By the time someone gets the notice and then takes their week to decide to cut it, we're far in excess of 10 inches. 6 inches, if we have a complaint about someplace, it allows us to provide notice to the property owner or occupant, and they can take steps to get that taken care of. But again, we provide a minimum of a week for people to do the cutting. We take almost no one to court for failure to cut. The city goes in if it hasn't been cut during that period of time, cuts the area, and then bills the property owner for the cost. And that, again, is as enabled by the statute, by the state of Arkansas.
I know you do citations on that because when I was county judge, the old juvenile court building, after it was torn down between the jail and where the Cooperative Extension Service was, or is today, we got a citation once for letting our weeds grow too high. But I would agree with George, which I don't usually do, that the weed, regulating the height of the weeds it's desirable, but I think it's almost unenforceable. When you look at the scope of other things that we're addressing here that I think are more serious, but that's the only, as I reflected on the changes we made, the only one I really had some heartburn on. In fact, I got a ruler out today, and if I'd had more time, I was going to go around and measure grass just to see. But unfortunately, I had better things to do with my time. So, but that's the only thing. I think that it's desirable, particularly when you put it in that light. Well, it's by the time you tell them they do something about it, then it's got too high. So,
I literally have been measuring my grass because our lawnmower broke and my husband had to buy a new one, and then it rained and rained and rained. So I'm going out with my little measuring stick, and it hit 5.5 inches. I'm thinking, oh no, we've got 1/2 inch to go. So I really do agree that the grass is if we've gone for 2 weeks in the summer and come back from vacation and have a notice on our door, that's the one that bothers me, because we've done that too. And I know we don't, the first part you read was that we're not discriminating, or we're equally serving this, and so that means you've got to, that's real close. The 6 inches is close. And then I also come back with the thought that we need to keep our grass as a city. The government needs to keep ours if we're demanding this for citizens. We shouldn't require anything of citizens that we don't do for our roadways and right-of-ways. And I know Bill was checking out better ways to do that, but the grass is an issue with me, too. I mean, I like the part that you gave 12 inches to the weeds in vacant lots. You did that.
Yep, we actually increased that.
Yes, they increased that. That makes a lot of sense because, if people aren't living there, 12 inches can happen like that, and it gives them chance. And so I really agree with that one. But my front yard's 6 inches is soon. Okay. Are there any other comments?
Just to be more comfortable with this, I'd like to make an amendment that on the dwelling unit that we do not strike day, week. Leave that in.
Where is that?
Page 68 of your
Page
packet.
68, what you've got.
Page 68.
Kathy, why was that changed? What was the thought
That
process?
was changed to be consistent with the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code.
That was the reason.
I still think we can leave it in our code, day, week, or month.
It's your choice.
Look at the first sentence. A single unit providing complete independent living facilities for more than one or more persons, including permanent provisions. That's not a vacation rental. That's where people reside. That's the difference.
Well,
because as she said, or has said twice now, that the city does not regulate those vacation rentals. They're all over our neighborhood, and that's how I helped house some of my family when we had a family reunion.
Yeah, but we have some very poor people here in town that do rent by the week, and they pay by the week, and that is their living quarter. That's their dwelling unit. They pay a lot more that way, which doesn't make sense. But that's how they get their money.
We really are talking about dwellings in which people reside, not vacation. If you'll continue to read on, it talks about the minimum square feet that must be available for habitable space. Again, if it's a one-night rental, a motel room, might be smaller than that. These are living facilities, not rental facilities.
Okay.
Permanent residential structures.
I'm still uncomfortable with it.
But every living facility is a possibility.
George.
I'll second Director Ramick's motion.
Okay. We have a motion to leave that as it was in that part. Do we have a second?
Mm-hmm.
Shall we see if there's any other modifications before we?
No, you must vote on
just
that.
on that one right
Must vote
there.
on that
Okay.
amendment. Unless
Do I
there's further
have? I have
discussion.
a motion and a second to leave it as day, week, or month. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We need to call the roll.
We typically
Let's call the roll on
Yeah,
that
probably
one.
be
Okay.
general. Davidson,
No.
Jones,
No.
Clark,
No.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye.
Amendment fails. Further discussion on the
Okay,
ordinance on the floor.
Do we have any other discussion or modification? I really would entertain a motion for the grass to be higher in my front yard. But I can't make a motion.
Mayor, what page is that on?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was on it earlier. I think it's 64.
17-11.2, if that is helpful.
64.
I'm going by page numbers now on this.
Page 75.
75. Well, I've got it here in front of me, so I just on my text, and I would simply make a motion that with regard to weeds, in excess of 10 inches for developed property instead of 6.
That was the original, right?
That's what
We
it was
changed.
first.
Okay.
We struck 10 and inserted 6. So
Yeah.
my motion is to go back to 10 inches.
Okay, do I have a second for that one? A second? It dies for lack of a second. So are there any other requests, revisions?
Just
Yes,
one
ma'am.
comment for clarification. The reason we left that, removed that day, week, and so on is to align with the fire code,
Right.
state fire code, right?
Right, Arkansas Fire Prevention Code, which is the building code.
Thank you.
That's why I voted like that.
Okay. And I had one other question about giving the piece of paper we give them and say you've got so many days to do this. Is there a way to make that softer?
We're doing that right now. There was discussion about that at the work session, and that's being done.
Okay.
Yep.
So it doesn't sound like you're going to jail tomorrow if we don't get $250 a
I
day.
don't recall anyone who's gone to jail over.
Over grass?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Well, this kind of grass.
This kind of grass. Okay.
Good point.
Okay, that's in the backyard, though. Okay, all right.
Before we vote on the amendment, these things that we've just voted on aren't my major concerns in my area. My major concerns are just trashy-looking properties. I can identify 3 or 4 properties right now on on the major street in my district that kind of look like Sanford and Son lived there, and particularly with regard to inoperable vehicles. So I wouldn't want anybody to interpret the fact that I got involved in with the discussion of a couple of these that I'm against this, because I certainly support it.
Thank you.
And this does change some of that because definitely there are places that look like a junkyard that
There are.
residential. Has up until now, has there not been a way to remedy that?
You know, that is an outstanding question. We have a lot of people who have difficulty deciding when something's actual positive life has come to an end, and believe that piling it in the front yard, but under a blue tarp, that's fine. And what we're hearing from people who live in Hot Springs, particularly people who live across the street from those kinds of properties, that is not good enough. As I mentioned, that provides harborage for pests, for rodents, for snakes, mosquitoes, and, we need this.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? No further discussion? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you
Sumlin.
very much.
Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye. It is adopted. And we do have a new mower, so it's a little bit easier now. All right. The next item of business is that number 1512? Are we there? 11.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item of business to consider resolution number 1545. Council, would you please read the resolution by title?
Resolution R 1545, a resolution approving the 2015 annual street paving program. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion, second to adopt, have discussion if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Mr. Carnahan.
Okay, another good thing that happens in springtime, besides the pollen,
Allergies.
is the paving program gets kicked off. So we get to, and you all were very generous in the budgeting season and approved $600,000 from the general fund and another $600,000 from the state half-cent sales tax. So we have $1.2 million. We also, you also passed a complete streets ordinance with guidelines setting aside 20% of that budget for sidewalks, bike lanes, intersection improvements, and other things to make our streets not just have new asphalt, but be better functioning streets for all users, pedestrians, bicyclists, and others. So we did our ranking of the streets, and then we passed them through the utility and construction departments to see if there were any conflicts. And we also had a review this year of our complete street elements with our trails coordinator, parks and trails director, our transit director, and our planning department also weighed in on helping us to look at where the priority should be for spending that complete streets money. So Denny McFate, who's our public works director, Pat Watson in engineering, develops this list every year for us, and the map that you have in your packet. Ken Freeman and Gene Wallace, we all worked hard to come up with this list of streets. And we also have an alternate list because we're hoping that we follow our past trend of overestimating a little bit, and that when we actually pay the street, we have a little money left over. And sometimes actually we run into unexpected problems and have to drop a street for one reason or another. So we have an alternate list that we would defer to if something changed in the top list. So we'd like to ask you to approve the primary list and the alternate list, and then we'll only spend up to the $1.2 million. Do you have any questions about that?
Okay.
I asked you some questions at our agenda meeting, and of course I know that when you draw up this list, you remove the boundary lines for the district, and it's a numbers game. And of course, the way I look at it is, when I look at the list, is how many projects do I have in my district? And District 4 made out pretty good last year, but on the primary list this year, we just have one small project of $2,500, which is less than 1% of the budget. So I'm gonna do like the basketball coach does when the call is gone against him. He tries to get the next call. So I want to encourage you, if you would, on the alternate list, if at all possible, to move Jerome Street up. It's been patched. There's a lot of cracks. It's an old street, and I would say this. Some of you may remember City Director Bill Edwards, whom the Financial Center is named after. Well, Bill lived on the corner of Jerome and 7th Street. Now, I can assure you that if he was still on this board, that street would have been done by now. So I'm putting in a plug for Jerome Street.
We hear you. Okay.
I'm going on record for that, so I'm putting in a plug for Jerome Street. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? We don't have anyone signed up for that. It looks like a great job, and there's still a lot more. Your job is nowhere near over, but this is awesome. It's incredible, because I remember one year we only did like a half a mile all year. So this is wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I might say too that same thing with the complete streets improvements with the sidewalks and bike lanes. When you look at this list, you may say, "Well, that's a small start." But hopefully, if we continue now carrying this philosophy forward, then we'll start piecing these things together and see some real progress.
Right. I was just in Little Rock at a meeting I had for housing, and a lot of this is done. The parking was moved out, and the bike lane it's all paint. You didn't really change the street at all. It's just a matter of striping it differently, and the parking was turned around with the bike lane on the inside. I was amazed. So nice. It's really neat. Thank you. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Williams?
Aye.
Ramick?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye.
Stop.
It is adopted. Okay, the next item of business is to consider ordinance number 01512. I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Is there
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Council, would you please read the ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 01512, an ordinance approving C4 Regional Commercial Open Display Zoning for 1.36 acre at 2228 Albert Pike Road and amending the future land use plan map to designate the area commercial, regional commercial, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
May I so move?
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Selman again.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the exciting things about being in the planning department, and yes, there are exciting things in the planning department, is that we see projects coming in at the very earliest point. Sometimes the first step is to change the zoning, sometimes to divide the land, and tonight we have two projects. This is the first one of local businessmen investing again in Hot Springs. And this is a request by applicant Jonathan Hamner on behalf of property owner Tim Winston of Goldland Estates Incorporated for C4 Regional Commercial Open Display Zoning for a piece of land on Albert Pike Road. The property now is zoned R2. If you looked at the property, as I know you did, we had maps and photos in your packet. It looks like it's a part of a shopping center now, and in fact it is, but the zoning is still R2. So the proposed use for commercial building and parking is not permitted in that zone, and this is a request to bring the zoning consistent with the zoning around it in the rest of Westgate Plaza. The Planning Commission heard this item in March on the 12th, and at that time they were able to make findings that the proposed zoning would be compatible with the subject property's location, with surrounding development and zoning, with desired commercial uses, and that development of the shopping center itself was a significant change in surrounding physical conditions, rendering future single-family residential use unlikely. The Planning Commission voted 8-0 to accept those findings and to recommend that you approve this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. We have Tim. Did you want to speak? We have you down. You're going to let Jonathan do it? Okay, all right.
You know, between me forgetting to sign up and Kathy's presentation, Kathy should probably send the bill to Tim Winston for that presentation instead of myself. But this is a piece of property. This was originally rezoned in 2003, and I believe somebody forgot to include this small portion, and that was B&F again. So it's just, you know, when you guys look at the property, you didn't know it was split. It's really to clean up what we believe to be a mistake. But I don't have anything to add other than what Kathy said.
Okay, that's great. Okay, any questions, comments from the board? Okay, hearing no further discussion, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Raymond?
Aye.
Davidson?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Carney?
Aye.
Adopted.
It is adopted. Thank you. Okay, the next item of business to consider ordinance number 01513. First of all, I entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Council, would you please read the ordinance by title?
13, an ordinance approving C2 General Business District zoning on 0.42 acres at 102 Phillip Street and amending the future land use plan map to designate the area community commercial center and for other purposes. That concludes your reading. If you now entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Selman again.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The applicant on this one is Todd Warple on behalf of the property owners Mary Dell and Robert Talley, and they are requesting C2 General Business District zoning for this parcel located at 108 Phillips Street. The subject property is currently zoned R4, which is medium-high density residential, and the future land use map designation is residential medium-high. This is in Director's District 3, And the specific reason for this zone change is to provide additional parking for the Arvest Bank redevelopment, which is going to be happening immediately westward at 1011 Albert Pike Road. This parcel right now is vacant. It's bounded by Phillips Street, Arvest Bank, Shipley's Donuts just to the north, and a single-family home to the south. There was a question at the work session about the map showing residential zoning just to the north of this parcel as well. And that is a pre-existing lawful parking area for Shipley's Donuts. People have been getting donuts there forever, and they've been parking their cars there in order to do that. So because it is unplatted land, there is no available legal description. If there had been a legal description, that would have been incorporated probably into this request, but we were unable to do that for you. Planning Commission heard this item on March 12th as well. They accepted the findings of the staff report that the proposed zoning is compatible with the subject property's location with the desired commercial uses, that development in surrounding conditions renders future single-family residential use unlikely, and the vote was 7-1 to accept those findings and to recommend to you that you approve this ordinance. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Let's see, we have Todd Warple signed up.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. Todd Warple. I'm here to represent the owners of the property. I have no comments unless you have questions.
It looks good. Do you have any questions for Mr.
Record time for a presentation.
Yeah, that was great. I was just looking at the pavement. Maybe we should do a job on that one, too.
I do have one question. There had been some question by one of the neighbors about a fence. Has that been resolved?
Yes, he was here earlier, and I told him that I would put him in touch with the developers once the plans were submitted to the city for their approval.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, looks
you.
good. Thank you. Okay, any discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Clark,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Ramick,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Carney.
Aye, it is adopted. Okay, that concludes the business section of tonight's meeting, and do we have any comments by the members of the board?
I do.
Okay.
Just earlier at the start of the meeting, we made a presentation from the Senior Companion Program operated by the Area Agency on Aging, which I'm a member of the board. And just so you'll be aware of this, you'll probably be seeing some publicity on this. And it's unfortunate, but Arkansas leads the nation. We're number one in senior food hunger. And in the most recent session of the legislature, $1 million was cut in state funding for senior services programs. This was part of the Revenue Stabilization Act. I don't know who came up with the idea that that's where they need to take the money in the Division of Aging and Adult Services under the DHS budget. But because we are number one in senior hunger, this means that we'll probably hang on to that because the estimate is that this will cause Meals on Wheels, a very good program, will result in 21,110 fewer home-delivered meals to our seniors. And here in Garland County, the overall 10-county budget reduction is $105,399, and the possible number of Meals on Wheels lost would be in excess of 5,000. I have to think that the legislature was inattentive to this particular budget item. And of course, these will take effect if nothing happens on July 1st. But I just wanted to call that to your attention. And I actually think it's pretty shameful that that cut happened.
Yes.
Any other comments? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have one. I left this off. I don't know if you know that the Wednesday night poetry has been happening every Wednesday night consecutively, and it just celebrated its 26th year anniversary. It has been in several locations, most recently Maxine's, but it has just been officially moved to the new coffee shop called Collective with a K. That is down at the very end on the west side of Central, just before you get to the fountain. I had a chai tea there yesterday, and it's fabulous, and they've done a great job. But so poetry will be at the Collective tomorrow night. Thank you.
Suzanne, that's 110 Central.
110 Central. Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements? Okay. Immediately following our adjournment tonight, there will be a public commentary right here in the board chambers because Dan Lewin came back. And for those of you who will be leaving, please do so quietly. And being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Supposed to be the one that received your name.
We'll pause for just a moment.
Oh, yeah. But better win the Arkansas Derby.
Volunteers, this is the volunteer job. I said, I don't care, nobody else either.